You've probably noticed the trend where everyone is slowly moving towards highly curated styles for their personal brands, with unique fonts, colors, editing, and even shot selection. From their short form content all the way to their long form content, the emphasis on visuals are everywhere. But you've probably wondered, is this just hype? Is it actually worth the effort? And will it actually help you grow? The truth is the content game has completely changed and your aesthetic is your edge now. The biggest creators and personal brands are all leveraging design within their content. From the outside, it may feel like pleasing visuals, but it's not just about having a nice looking brand. Because the truth is, trust is at an all-time low. And every single day, there are new creators jumping onto the platform trying to build their personal brand. With all these options, people are judging before they even listen to you. So if your brand looks cheap and generic, then they're probably gonna assume that your offer is too. The way you present yourself and how your content actually feels, from your aesthetic design and your messaging, it signals something deeper. It shows the effort that you're putting into your brand and how serious you actually are, giving an indication to your audience of how it would actually be like working together. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if you don't put the effort into building your own brand, why would you put the effort in helping someone else achieve their goals? The bottom line is, if you want to grow fast, build trust, and actually create content that converts, aesthetic isn't optional anymore. It's the highest leverage move that you can make. Because a well-designed aesthetic immediately makes you one of one and separates you from all of the noise, and carve out your own lane and actually position yourself differently from everyone else on the market so that you can attract your own specific audience. The reality is people are deciding before they even hear what you have to say. And that's why some of the smartest creators are investing in their aesthetic. So that's why in this video, I want to show you exactly how you can implement this into your brand and to position yourself as a one-of-one personal brand. Okay, before we dive into the how, we need to first understand what aesthetic really means. I know the common perception when we say aesthetic is easily to just go into what things look like. But if we look at the word anesthetic, it's literally the drug that takes away all of your senses and all of your feeling. So what aesthetic really means is what you make people feel without saying anything. With that being said, let's jump right into it. Okay, why is this happening? Why is aesthetics becoming so important when you are building a personal brand in today's world? It's simply because creators are realizing that creating is actually becoming commoditized, that AI will out-create you, but it can't out-curate you. The truth is, AI can now create content faster than any human, and it's only going to get faster. And in the direction that we're heading, with AI speeding up content creation, it equals more volume. With more volume, it's more noise. With more noise, it's going to be harder to stand out. And the only thing that's actually going to allow you to stand out is human taste. It's curation and aesthetic. That is the only thing that's going to allow you to cut through. Rick Rubin said it best. Taste is the most important thing you can develop. It's the filter through which all decisions flow.
Do you play instruments?
Barely.
Do you know how to work a soundboard?
No. I have no technical ability, and I know nothing about music.
You must know something.
Well, I know what I like and what I don't like, and I'm decisive about what I like and what I don't like.
So what are you being paid for?
The confidence that I have in my taste and my ability to express what I feel has proven helpful for artists.
And back when this first came out, everyone was laughing like, how the hell can he get paid for just doing nothing? Like, he physically has no abilities and he's just getting paid for his taste. For most people, they didn't understand the nuance of what is actually happening. But this is the direction that the future is heading. Technology is essentially commoditizing every skill, allowing everyone to be able to create, helping people make music quicker, even if they don't know any sort of instruments, speeding up the process of editing, even if you don't have an editing background, creating full websites without any skill of coding. And this is why it's so important to develop your taste. Because in the world of AI and where we're headed, everyone is going to have the basic skills of creating. But the ones who are going to stand out are the ones who have the best taste and curate their own world. And that's why I said content is slowly getting commoditized. From creating photos to videos to even VFX, all of that is becoming simpler and simpler for the average person to create. And that's why what's going to make you stand out is your aesthetic, your taste, and your brand. Okay, so this is the main question: how to create an aesthetic brand. The most important thing to realize is that it's actually an expression and amplification of who you are and not what looks cool. This is one of the biggest mistakes most creators are making. They're just seeing what's online and what looks cool, and they're just trying to place that back into their own personal brand. But like I mentioned, it's meant to express who you are and create your own audience. And if you can't be yourself and you copy someone else, you're never going to get the results that someone else has. So if we look at some of these personal brands here, these are perfect examples of application of who they truly are. So if we think about Luke Belmont, the way that he's actually even designed a content distribution system to allow him to post a piece of content every 4 minutes, it's as if he's actually glitching the whole content game. That no matter where you are on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you're going to see Luke Belmont's face. It's actually an amplification of his values. Or even Alex Mosey, the way that he makes learning simple. If you think about his aesthetics, it's very simple and clean, and his fonts are the thing that just stand out. It's very big, bold, and it always has these primary colors. You know, when he says something that's good, it goes green, and when he says something that's not good, it goes to red. And anything he just wants to highlight, he just turns to yellow. It just feels like he's breaking down these concepts to us in a very simplistic way, as if we were a kid. And that's basically what he believes in. Because he said before, I really write like a 5th grader, because if you can write to a 5th grader, then everyone else will understand. He always talks about simplifying isn't about dumbing down content, but it's just making it clear and accessible to the audience. We have Iman Gadzhi with his old money and classy sort of aesthetic. From the way that he dresses, to the cameras and the colors that they use, the fonts and the music all amplify this one feeling. And it's not him curating something that's not really him. Like I mentioned, the clothes that he wears, and even coming from England, it has that old money sort of feeling. Or even with my brand, the reason I keep using the green color is because green is the color of go. Because for me, I believe in more of an active mindset than a passive mindset. Your ability to actually go out and create and not being scared about where the future is taking us. And that's why it's a dark, green, futuristic sort of feeling, is because I've always been a futurist and thinking where the world is heading. Mixing that with philosophy and deeper ideas. And that's what I want my brand to feel like. Trying to attract people who are active, that are excited about the future, thinking about where the world is heading, rather than the people that's just passive and afraid of where the future is heading. Alright, so let me just show you how you can do this for yourself. The first thing is you have to understand the 2 elements. We have your mood board and you have aesthetic curation. We really need to understand the difference between those two. Like I've mentioned before, most creators are just thinking about design as how do I make things look good? How do I make it match what's trending and how do I get attention? But great brands are thinking about design with how do I make people feel something specific on purpose? How do I visually express the values and energy of this brand? And how do I design a world people want to step into and keep returning to? And that's why the first step of mood boarding is essentially answering all these questions and getting a base idea of what you're into, what you like, and what makes you feel something. This is just a quick mood board of things that I like and I want to infuse within my brand. Just a few things of like the CRT, the green, the darker visuals, this glassy, futuristic sort of effect, strong, bold fonts. But aesthetic curation is essentially taking those elements from my mood board and infusing it with the values and ideas that I want to have my audience feel. Even just using the CRT fonts, it's already giving it that futuristic feeling, giving you an indication of what the ideas I talk about. Like I mentioned, green is the color of go. It's immediately going to make you stand out from everyone else who's just using normal colors. When you look at my page and you see the green, you're going to remember who I am. And even with the green, it's a little detail, but I put the gradient from lighter to dark. And the reason I did that and not just pick one single green, one, yes, is going to make me stand out because if I just use one green, it could look like someone else. But the idea I infuse with it is because I love learning about philosophy, and through all my deep research, what I have realized is that nothing is actually black and white. Everything is actually shades of gray. And when we think about ideas, there's always multiple sides and different creative ways that we can look at it. And that's why I show the gradient from light to dark, showing the different areas of gray within the ideas that I actually talk about. And even finding a way that I can consistently use this gradient, I use this line element that really amplifies certain things that I talk about. And even the font that I use, it's more squished and more spread out, which is already giving it that futuristic sci-fi feel. Even how I show up, it's not with branded clothes, it's very simple and clean. This is also going to give you an insight of who I truly am. And having how I dress as a consistent element actually adds to the brand as well. But overall, you can see that I actually care about how things look and feel, and I put the extra effort to make things look a certain way. This is also an indication of how I'm going to treat others. It's not an explicit way of telling that, but people can feel it. If they can see that you're putting so much effort into all of this, they're going to know that you're going to put effort when you work with them. So the practical elements that you need to pick to infuse to create your aesthetic brand. The first thing that we have here is your font or typography. The main thing that you want to try and choose is 2 main fonts. We have a primary font and then a secondary font. Your primary font is usually bold, clear, and it's usually used for titles and headers, the biggest statements. And your secondary font is used for subheaders, supporting text, and captions. The main point is to add character and contrast. Like you can see here, we have the big bolder font tied with the secondary font, giving it that strong contrast. If you have 2 fonts that look too similar, it's not going to have that distinct look. That's why you always want to play with contrast. If one is bold, the other one should be thin. If the one is straight, the other should be curved. And this is where we head into the sans serif and serif fonts. So the sans serif is all the straight lines, so everything is always going to be straight, and serif is when we have the little ticks and curves at the end. What you want to try and do is find a pairing of both of these. And obviously there's a much wider range where we have handwritten, cursive, there's all these different areas, but what you want to do is try and pair a sans serif with a serif font, giving it a strong contrasted look. And then we have your color palette. What you want to do is have your base colors and start with black and white as a neutral foundation. You can add certain grays and muted tones, but what you want to try and focus on is any sort of the accent colors, even just choosing choosing 1 to 3 colors. Pick these colors in a way that you can use it in your clothing, your background, your overlays, your lighting, your highlights. It's important to get the exact color codes so you can actually be consistent throughout your content. Next, we have your imagery. So actually define your primary video and photo style. Does it have a raw and documentary sort of look, or is it more cinematic and high production? Like you can see here, it's very natural colors, just using natural lighting. It doesn't have any sort of specific look, but it has that raw feeling. Whereas then on this end, it's a very curated look with him framed perfectly and using the lighting in a very specific way to give a very cinematic look. It could even be things like, are you doing handheld or are you doing tripod? Even with your editing, is it very minimal or does it have highly edited graphics? These are all touch points that actually give an indication of who you are. We have your branding elements, so your visual language, so shapes, lines, textures, icons or symbols, or even little micro brand elements. So do we have any shapes or patterns that you use within your content? Like for me, I mentioned the gradient green line. If you do use lines, are they thin? Are they thick? Are they curvy? Are they straight? Even textures, is it very high quality and clean, or do you have that grainy sort of blurry sort of feel? Even icons and symbols, they're way more prevalent in clothing brands, but it's very underrated even with the personal brand space. But there are a few people now starting to put an icon or a symbol within their content. Or even micro brand elements. These could be little design details, or it's the subtle things that make your brand feel consistent. It could be where your logo is placed, or even signature sign-offs. Things like how people intro themselves into the video, or even how they sign off at the end of the video. Like Iman's signature sign-off, where he's always saying that he's rooting for you.
I'm watching from afar and I'm rooting for you.
Next, you have your content formatting. So it's essentially your TV show format. Your content should feel like a familiar show and people know what to expect and look forward to it. This is so important to actually understand that people actually build their brand on a very specific format. So again, to understand who you are and how you express yourself the best. Is it teaching manually through a board where you physically draw it, where it feels like you're there with them? Or do you create a whiteboard digitally and then walk them through it on your laptop? Or do you have these informational videos where you can sit down and go in depth on one specific idea? Do you have these raw and authentic vlogs? Or do you have this very creative vlog where shots are still very aesthetic or visually appealing? Do you just have a one take where you're just talking to camera by yourself? Or do you actually have a podcast where you can go back and forth with another person that actually brings the most out of you? Like I mentioned, all of this is about amplifying who you are. So understanding the content format that actually works for you is so important, because this is the thing that could actually make or break your personal brand. If you're able to find the right format that suits how you show up and double down on it, this is how you're going to break through. You're essentially just amplifying your strength. If you're heavy into design and all the details, then maybe your vlogs are designed that way. If you're not good at talking to the camera, maybe you do a podcast where you can actually converse with someone back and forth to actually get those ideas out. Either way, whatever TV show you create is what people are going to tune into and expect every single time. And last, we have your brand voice or messaging. Essentially, your brand voice is how you say and what you say repeatedly. It should match your visual aesthetic. Is it premium, raw, hype, casual, clean? It essentially should match your visual aesthetic. If you're a person that talks with a lot of confidence and a lot of strength, then maybe your visual aesthetic should actually amplify that too, with bold colors, bold text. But if you want to talk to your audience in a more empathetic way, then maybe the music that you choose is a bit more softer. You might choose to go with natural lighting and raw camera visuals, just to feel like when you talk to your audience, it feels like you're there with them. But the whole goal of messaging is simply to create signature phrases that embeds your beliefs and positioning in your audience's mind. And you should be saying these things everywhere, on your captions, your carousels, your videos, your stories, everywhere. These are some of the most popular messaging that's connected to their personal brands. With Gary Vee, document and don't create. Iman Gadzhi, time, location, financial freedom. Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Grant Cardone, the 10x rule. Andrew Tate, Escape the Matrix. And for myself, it's the future creator. Even just looking at this messaging, it actually indicates exactly who they are and what they actually believe. With Gary Vee, document, don't create.
My friends, the key to content success is you've got to start documenting instead of creating. Let me tell you how. Just start.
You can see even in his content how he actually shows up and does that. Most of his content isn't super highly curated. It feels like it's just a documentary. It's just an amplification of who he really is. Growing up and always feeling like an underdog, his life wasn't clean or polished. And that's probably a big reason why he has his visual style. That more raw, behind the scenes sort of vibe, as if you're watching the underdog on his journey to buy the jets. Iman Gadzhi always talking about time, location, and financial freedom. This messaging completely aligns with his values. Your ability to live life on your own terms, breaking away from the traditional educational system. If you look at his content, he's not in one place. He's always traveling. He's even doing podcasts outside, really emphasizing this messaging. Grant Cardone, 10x rule. Like, with everything that he does, he always brings that 10x energy. He doesn't like to play small, and with this messaging, it's extremely clear. Same with Andrew Tate, Escape the Matrix. If you look at his content, it has that sort of glitchy feel as if you're trying to escape the Matrix. Even when it comes down to his visuals, it's always extremely unconventional, showing things that most people can't even comprehend, like 50 supercars, some of the world's best penthouses, and anything that's just far out for people to even even imagine, which basically breaks the audience's matrix and what they believe is possible. Once you put all of these 6 elements together, this is going to be your aesthetic style, your overall look and feel. Choosing all of these elements very carefully, it's going to be the feeling that people get from your content. And to know if you created your aesthetic style correctly, I always say that the 3 things that come to your audience's mind when they think of you that matches with the 3 things that you want the audience to remember about you, that's how you'll know that you succeeded. Remember, the goal is your aesthetic should feel intentional, and even if someone blurs your name out, they should feel that it's your content based on these reoccurring visual elements. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video on exactly how to create your aesthetic brand, but if you still feel unclear and a lack of direction for your aesthetic curation, so watch this video where I break down all of the questions that you need to ask yourself to build a unique brand, and then you can use those answers to help with your aesthetic curation.